Brothers and sisters, welcome to episode number 45 in the book of John. But we're actually going to go to Mark today to get a parallel passage about Jesus walking on water. Today's about Groundhog Day, or trying not to make it Groundhog Day for your soul specifically. So the context is it's 3 a.m. The disciples without Jesus have been in a boat on the Sea of Galilee, and they're rowing. It's against the wind. A storm has come up, and they're making headway painfully. So it's dark now. There's a storm, and there's no Jesus because Jesus was sending them ahead because he was praying. So here's the story from Mark 6, which is parallels from John 6. And about the fourth watch of the night, he came to them walking on the sea. He meant to pass by them. But when they saw him walking on the sea, they thought it was a ghost. And they cried out, for they all saw him and were terrified. But immediately he spoke to them and said, "Take heart, it is I, do not be afraid." Verse 51. And he got into the boat with them, and the wind ceased, and they were utterly astounded. And then here's the line that I want to focus on today. For they did not understand about the loaves, but their hearts were hardened. So the loaves was the story before this in the Bible. Literally, it's the same day or the day before. And that's where Jesus fed the 5,000. So King James says it, they considered not the miracle of the loaves. NASB says they had not gained any insight from the incident of the loaves. New Living Translation says, for they still didn't understand the significance of the miracle of the loaves. So the deal is they forgot about the loaves, or at least they didn't understand about the loaves. So the amazing thing in this story to me is that the lesson of the loaves from, the previous pages of the Bible, previous experiences that the disciples had, the lessons of the loaves was required when they were on the stormy sea. So they had failed to employ their capabilities for understanding and arrive at insight about something the Lord had previously tried to teach them. So oh no, wait a minute. I'm supposed to remember the old stuff to help me with the new stuff. So they just had this lesson yesterday. They forgot about the lesson from yesterday that they needed again today. They forgot the lesson yesterday. They forgot the lesson itself, that Jesus that shows up in impossible circumstances, to remember the super powerful Jesus. That is our superpower. Remember the lesson from my granddaughter when she said, your superpower, what's your name and what's your superpower? And when you play that game of make-believe, your superpower is absolutely going to be required in situations that we face as we play this make-believe game. So let's break this down. How did they forget? They forgot the lesson specifically. And worse, maybe they didn't understand it in the first place. They didn't consider it. They didn't think through it. They didn't own it. They didn't interject the Lord between the presenting circumstances and the desired outcomes. They forgot to put the Lord in there. And they forgot their superpower, which was their association with the actual super powerful Lord. So they had this opportunity to place Jesus between this impossible situation, put faith in the middle, and they didn't do that. So they sort of got the circumstances right. They got the math part of the problem right, but they didn't have the resources to put it to work. They didn't get the master right. So now they're in a dark and stormy night, in peril, at risk, and at spiritual wit's end, and they needed that lesson to bring into the dark and stormy night. So we may have to work at this. We may have to spend some time working at particular lessons, which is why I like this podcast, which is a regular daily application to work on some of our skills together. It's our efforts to remember daily. And then they forgot the lesson in general. So I keep thinking about a marriage badge where we have skills and experiences. We get a merit badge, but we're not supposed to forget the skills and experience we learned as we got the merit badge. So we are training and growing and maturing as Christians. We've been on missions, if you will. And when you go into spiritual battle, you want to be the guy, not just with merit badges, but with actual memories and actual skills and actual things that they can bring to bear onto that particular situation. I was thinking about elder qualifications, which one of them is that you're not supposed to be a new convert. Well, the idea is you want people in that particular church office with merit badges, but skills. Actually, the merit badges are one thing, good, good, yay, but the skills are what you really want. That you have people that say, hey, this is not my first spiritual day. So you're supposed to act like it's not your first spiritual day. And then this idea where the Lord was going to pass by, I just get a kick out of that. Maybe he's just saying, hey, here's the idea. Remember me as you see him walk by on water. When you just get a glimpse of him, then maybe that's him passing by is enough to remind us to do the right thing. Perhaps they could have said, hey, we're in a physical and a spiritual pickle here. The Lord's not physically here, but, I remember, we can put him here. We can pray. We can call on him. We can cry out to him. We can trust him. So what is your dark and stormy night? What is your situation right now that sounds impossible, where you're at risk, you're in peril, and you might have these insurmountable issues? What should you do? Remember, number one, it's not your first spiritual day. Don't forget the lessons in general. You have experiences, you have encounters, you have realities, you have skills that you can bring to bear. And then remember today's lessons specifically, which was, hey, God met me recently, yesterday in their case, and maybe I should remember it. So if God gives you a lesson about something, the loaves, do your best to remember it. Why? You need to treasure it and hold on to it and rely on it, because when there's a big storm, Jesus may ask you to remember the lesson about the loaves. So let's be stronger and more spiritually mature person today than we were yesterday. Let's learn the lesson of the loaves, because it may be required in the stormy sea. So don't be the same spiritual person that you were yesterday. Don't be in a spiritual groundhog situation where you have to learn the same lessons over and over. So let's incorporate them. Why? So that they can be used, and we can have the skills to bring to bear on the situation that we find ourselves in. Thanks for listening.